20% of the world's oil squeezes through a corridor just 21 miles wide. One disruption at the Strait of Hormuz, and fuel prices, freight costs, and grocery bills spike worldwide. The problem? There is no way around it. At its tightest pinch, the Strait of Hormuz narrows to just 21 miles across, a maritime bottleneck wedged between the rocky headlands of Iran and Oman. Every vessel carrying oil, gas, or goods must squeeze through this confined corridor, but the path is even narrower than it first appears. The International Maritime Organization mandates a two-lane traffic scheme, one lane for eastbound ships and one lane for westbound, each barely 2 to 3 kilometers wide and separated by a slim buffer. The channel's depth restricts fully loaded giants to a draft of about 20 meters, forcing some to lighten their cargo before entry. The rules are strict. Every non-local ship must take on a certified pilot, either Iranian or Omani, before attempting the passage. Speed is capped at 12 knots to prevent collisions and hull damage as currents swirl and tides pull at the hulls. The result is a forced concentration of the world's most valuable cargo into a single, tightly regulated passage where the margin for error is razor-thin and the entire system depends on perfect choreography. One misstep, one stalled vessel, and the whole artery clogs. 4 export terminals anchor the flow of oil and gas toward the Strait of Hormuz. Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia, Mina Al-Ahmadi in Kuwait, Ras Laffan in Qatar, and Basra in Iraq. Together, they push out nearly 23 million barrels of crude oil and about 4 million barrels of liquefied natural gas every single day. That is a quarter of the world's oil and a fifth of its LNG, funneled through a corridor barely wide enough for 2 passing ships. In a single year, over 8 billion barrels of oil and 1.5 billion cubic meters of LNG squeeze through this bottleneck. But this is not just theory. During the tanker war of 1984 to 1988, attacks and mines slashed daily vessel transits by nearly 40%. Satellite tracking revealed that shipments dropped from over 50 tankers a day to just 31 at the conflict's peak. The numbers alone reveal how a single choke point can throttle the flow of energy, sending shockwaves through distant economies. On July 19, 2019, the British-flagged Stena Impero was seized near the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. Within hours, the cost of insuring a single tanker voyage through these waters soared. War risk premiums that had hovered around $30,000 per trip suddenly shot past $185,000. For ship owners, the new reality was blunt. Every passage now carried a 6-figure surcharge, demanded upfront by insurers who were wary of further attacks. Oil markets responded just as sharply. Brent crude futures jumped 9% in less than a week, wiping out months of price stability. For a logistics manager in Rotterdam or Singapore, the math changed overnight. Should they risk a loaded vessel through the strait, gambling with crew safety and insurance bills that could erase the voyage's profit? Or reroute around Africa, adding weeks and even more cost? The answer was never simple, but the message from the market was clear. Risk in Hormuz is priced in instantly, and no supply chain is immune to the shock. When tankers and container ships are forced to avoid the Strait of Hormuz, the alternatives are costly and slow. Rerouting a vessel from the Gulf around the Cape of Good Hope adds about 15 days to a typical voyage. It more than doubles the journey time between Saudi Arabia and Asia. That detour alone piles on roughly $250,000 in extra fuel and crew expenses for a single trip. The financial shock is immediate during the 6-day Suez Canal blockage by the Ever Given. In March 2021, global freight indices spiked as thousands of ships waited or rerouted, sending spot shipping rates soaring by up to 400% on certain routes. The Cape detour is not just a theoretical penalty, it is a proven, painful reality when choke points close. Recent Houthi attacks in the Red Sea have added yet another layer of risk, pushing some carriers to bypass both Suez and Hormuz entirely, compounding delays and driving up costs across interconnected trade lanes. Each new threat cements a higher baseline for shipping expenses, which inevitably filters down to the price of goods everywhere. A single container. Surcharge. $200 to $300 per 40-foot box lands on every shipment that detours around Hormuz. For the grocer on the corner, that fee means produce and staples arrive with a higher price tag before they even hit the shelves. Fuel costs pile on too, with an 8-cent per liter jump at the pump, traced back to tanker delays and rerouted ships. One grocery owner in Hamburg watches his delivery invoices swell, each line item reflecting the new reality. Flour, rice, and coffee all cost more to restock. The shock does not wait for next quarter's bills. It shows up on this week's receipts and inevitably on every shopper's total at checkout. Europe's vulnerability is sharpened by its limited room to maneuver. When the Strait of Hormuz is threatened, European refineries and power plants cannot simply switch to other sources overnight. From 2011 to 2012, EU officials scrambled as crude imports from the Gulf dropped, forcing temporary refinery shutdowns and fuel rationing. Even with emergency stocks and pipeline connections to the Red Sea, the hard ceiling is clear. Just 3.5 million barrels per day can bypass Hormuz by land, a fraction of what Europe and Asia together need. An EU energy official summed it up bluntly: our inventories are thin and our alternatives are capped. For Europe and other import-reliant economies, the Strait's chokehold means every new risk in the Gulf lands with full force on their shores. Every day, a single choke point holds the world's wallets hostage. As tensions simmer, the risk grows. Vulnerability is the new normal, and no economy is truly insulated. Stay alert.